Who are the best champions in OB50, the latest patch for Paladins on PC, you may very well ask, and today I'll try and answer just that question. It's not going to be a full tier list of all champions from best to worst, or in brackets or anything like that, as we've only had a little while to play with the game from the PTS and a few days of the release. But I'm just going to try and go over the best champions, in my opinion, from each of the classes. Just a little disclaimer, with tier lists and things like this, there's always issues with how people's games scale, people's individual skills, so my skill, compared to that of other players giving other advice. Actually, if we look at statistics on win rates, the champions that a lot of pro players will say are best, like Makoa, aren't necessarily the highest win rate champion in competitive play for the majority of players. Actually, Torvald is, and Torvald is seen as pretty weak because Rekka counters him in higher level games. And that's why you always have to take these tier lists with a little sprinkle of salt, but I'll try and explain some reasons why, if they're played to the best or if you're a decent player, you can make these champions really work for you. Feel free to put your best champion for each of the categories in the comment section below as I go through mine in this video. So first up is the support class, and for me, this one is a healer, and that is Ceres. Why Ceres? Because Ceres already in OB49 was very strong as a single target healer. With Mortal Reach you can do 3000 healing over 3 seconds. Also the range is ridiculous, and you don't have to have line of sight with the ally that you're healing whilst you're holding that heal on, so you can even get into cover and just get out of there if you're on low health. But in OB50, the cooldown has been reduced from 5 to 4 seconds, which means effectively you'll be doing more healing because you'll be able to heal more quickly. And honestly, this is a massive buff to her healing, and you can really tell in game how much she can put out. Just to cover a few general reasons why Ceres is so good and why she's been good for a while, is that her shadow travel, where she goes invisible and invulnerable, which is escape, is just generally a great escape, and also you can use it to contest a point without being able to be attacked, alongside being great for getting away. Her main attack, Soul Orb, may not be great at doing direct and precise damage, but it does give a very good area denial and aerial pressure, where lots of these orbs are coming towards you and it makes you want to move away, and even a psychological element to it. These orbs are going to block your view, and you'll know this view of area of these orbs is all damage coming towards you. Finally, between having her heal and having the card that heals you whilst you heal an ally, and also being able to rend souls and heal, Ceres also has a lot of self-sustain, which can keep herself up. And finally, her convergence was probably seen as one of the weakest ultimates in the game because of its time to drag people in. Before, in OB49, it was 1.5 seconds, and pretty much everybody could either roll away, get behind cover during that time. Now in OB50, that's been reduced to 0.5 seconds, which again is a massive decrease, and effectively you'll be pretty much dragged in every time. There's only like a split second where you'll have to roll away or get behind cover, and it is very difficult to escape this. And this ultimate drags everybody into a ball, and if you have a Drogos on your team, if you have a Bomb King on your team, you probably be able to clear up pretty well with this ultimate, and it is a game winning or game changing ultimate this time round. So all in all, Ceres is amazing at healing at one person at a time. It's been buffed this patch, and generally her ultimate is also something that can win as well, and the rest of the kit isn't weak. So that's why Ceres is my number 1. Moving on to the frontliners. So I think that we can actually split this one up. So Makoa has been the top of the meta in competitive scenes for so very long. He actually had a nerf to his hook, which has kept him up there. Basically, the hook means you can drag somebody out, and if people are paying attention, which they are in more competitive games and competitive scene, then you'll be able to take out one target. It's basically an I kill somebody if I land it ability every time it's up. But the cooldown has been increased by 2 seconds on that hook. On the other hand, Makoa's also had a buff to the fact that their ultimate will go off in 0.3 seconds rather than 0.5 seconds. Before, it was quite easy to be bursted down whilst you're saying to people, oh, do you dare challenge Makoa? Well, actually, they probably did in those 0.5 seconds. They tried to burst you down before you could get the health buff. But now it gives you the full health of the ultimate, so you don't get insta-gibbed before you can use it, because the best way to use it is when you're low health, because then you're having the highest economy out of it, because it'll take into account your health previously. I don't think that's necessarily changed for Makoa, but there's one challenge to him, and that is Inara this patch. And if you haven't seen my video, I did go in depth into Inara. I'll just quickly touch on it. But basically, a Mother's Grace, her ultimate card, now removes all debuffs, and that's sort of all slows, all status effects, anything that has a status on you, it pretty much gets rid of it. And the big one really is that it means you can get the full healing from your ally support champion. Especially if it's a Ceres, you'll be getting that 3000 health every time. You don't need to worry about the fact that there might be a Cauterize coming in that could have reduced your healing by 90% before. Inara essentially has become the tankiest of the tanks in the game. Her damage was also increased, and as a utility tank, she has the wall as well to do a lot of denial. I think that in most casual games, if you have a Ceres or a Maldamba paired with a Inara, the Inara is going to wreck stuff up. Unless, of course, in the casual game there's an Inara on the enemy team, then it might be just a head-to-head battle of Inaras in the middle of the map, slowly slinging rocks at each other and not really doing a lot. But yeah, I think it's interesting to take this one apart again. I think that most casual games and most competitive games that aren't played at the highest level, Inara is going to wreck face. But then maybe in the competitive scene, Mako will still have his top spot because of the hook, because it's just still such a utility and so powerful in the game, even with the nerf to the cooldown, because esports players probably aren't going to miss that hook, or not very often at least. So let's have a look at the flank category. Now for me, it has been Androxus for the longest time. He has so much maneuverability, he can deny areas, go above people and take them from surprise. He now has in OB50 a fixed reversal as well, which has buffed him even further into the top spot for flankers for me. Before, if you move backwards whilst you're using reversal, you had a very high chance of your enemy's projectiles or general fire just going through it and just hitting you anyway. What it meant was that you always had to be aggressive and either move forwards or move sideways and take the risk of maybe moving slightly backwards and getting hit anyway, and then fighting your enemies and basically using the reversal as a carry on with the fight. Now you also have the option of using the reversal to back off, get behind a corner, and then nether step away when you're ready. And I think that actually this has helped the Darkstalker legendary card, the one where you can nether step and it's not tethered to a big cooldown, because you can back off behind a wall and then start nether stepping away, then come back into the fight when you're ready. Androxus definitely is a higher skilled champion and rewards decent aim. And also, because of the headshot damage on his weapon, he can have a very high damage potential even further away if you're hitting those headshots. So in the hands of the best players, he is going to get better and better. The fact that most builds currently with Androxus heal yourself whilst you're nether stepping also means he has decent self-sustain, and most of the maps in the game have systems of vertical cover where he can dash behind or dash below, and because he's got 3 disjointed movement abilities, he can always dash in a very 3D way and dash, say, forwards and to the side to really react to any shape or size of cover in the game and get into places that other champions just can't roll to or jump to or fly to. Also, because he's hit scan and he can go into the air, he's great at dealing with 2 of the champions that are most picked up in this patch, and that is Willow and Drogos. Now I'm going to talk about Drogos in a second in the damage section, but Drogos is definitely one of the champions people are picking up a lot. Now Willow isn't probably going to be picked up a lot in competitive games, but in casual games where people are still like, oh, a new champion, let's pick up a Willow. As an Androxus, there isn't really much a Willow can do to fight you, and to pretty much go after them all of the time and keep them out of the game is fairly easy as an Androxus. Finally, Androxus Ultimate is one of those big game-winning ultimates. If you use it at the right time, you go into the air, you see a group of enemies clumped up, and you just unleash hell with your accursed arm. It can pretty much wipe a whole team. For pretty much all of these reasons, Androxus is definitely, for me, the best flanker in the game currently. So finally we have the damage category. Now Drogos hasn't necessarily had a direct buff in the fact that anything's been made higher or better, but indirectly the fixes that they've added to the character have really improved how Drogos plays. So first of all, they fixed the salvo, and this was the ability where you rack up 6 rockets. They do less damage, but they have a big AoE, and basically they're great to spam onto a point where lots of enemies are clumped up, or an area where people are clumped up, and usually at the start of a round you'll fire it off, get a load of damage off, and sort of initiate a fight and get people low so that you'll win the first engagement. Before, that was very haphazard. You didn't know whether it was going to work because the ability was buggy. Sometimes you'd load a few of the rockets up, sometimes it wouldn't load at all, but it looked like it loaded, it would just fire a normal rocket, which would completely throw you off. And generally, even though the ability was still good, and Drogos generally as a champion was good, the unreliability of it meant he was just generally worse. So this has really pushed him up there for me in the meta. Secondly, they've improved his lag compensation. The idea is that his projectiles will register better with a server from client side, even if you have higher pings. But in general, I think, like with Bomb King, on all pings, the fire seems to have got more accurate to what the client sees, and it means that you can pull off some really insane shots with Drogos, even hitting people in midair or hitting people on the ground and really rocketing them off. It might slightly be a placebo, and I don't have the perfect connection to the game, so in my books, Drogos has got a lot better, but even from the point of view of a player playing against a Drogos, it seems that their shots are connecting more, and even the normal rockets are being more relentless in how they are attacking you, and pre-firing at a corner or an area where an enemy will jump out from, you'll seem to hit more people than you did before, and this could be to do with the fact that the client and the server are communicating better, and before, because of the lag, it might have looked like somebody walked out of a walkway when they hadn't on their client side, and that could be the reason why you seem to be hitting more. But so far I've got a pretty damn good track record of playing Drogos at the moment, and he generally just feels insane. And to talk about a champion that he can go great against is Inara. Because she is so immune to damage and all status effects and she's getting healed up, Drogo's ultimate is indispensable in getting rid of her because it's the instant kill, one punch, dragon punch. And of course she's going to feel the dragon's fury, unless of course she's got a great wall, but even if she puts up a wall you can fly over it or you can fly around it in most occasions, unless she's been really lucky and got it up in a tight area. Plus, because none of your attacks are status attacks, and Bomb King last patch would have probably been the best damage champion because of the fact they had so many stuns, they had so much area control, but now, especially if there's going to be an Inara on the enemy team, the stuns aren't going to do a lot when she uses Mother's Grace because it completely has CC, crowd control, immunity, so she doesn't get stunned. And generally the damage isn't as high as the Drogos can put out, and that raw damage is going to mean more when you're fighting a Inara with Mother's Grace. Although if you are fighting Inara, I would say it's still a bit of a toss-up between Bomb King and Drogos because of the utility, but still Drogos is pretty insane this patch. Anyway, that was my very limited list of champions I think are best for each of the categories currently in OB50, the latest patch, and this can all change when the next patch comes in. And again, like I said, it's all my opinion, and also there's different levels of skill and how the champions scale up, and also how things work out in esports where players are literally talking to each other all of the time, where champion abilities and combos can be executed a lot better, and generally the cohesion of champions is a bit different there. What does everybody else think about the best and worst champions? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Do you agree with what I think, or are there some champions that you think are just really outperforming this patch? And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more of my content, and thank you all very much for watching. Until next time folks, Joshino.